I want to talk to you about my birthplace, Zomba. It was the first capital city of Malawi up until 1974. Then, after Lilongwe became the capital city. I went on a drive around the city center. It has a lot of British colonial style buildings. This is because Malawi was a British protectorate from 1891 to 1964. Zomba remained as the capital until 1974. So, a lot of the infrastructure in Zomba was built by the colonial government. 60 years ago, this would have been the most developed and busiest district in Malawi. These days, the atmosphere is relaxed. The official languages in Malawi are English and Chichewa, but most of the signs or billboards are in English. If you're wondering why English is used on so many signs or billboards in Zomba or Malawi in general after Malawi gained its independence in 1964, the reason is that the native languages like Chichewa are limited. Some nouns don't have words in Chichewa. So if you want to count, for example, more than 10, or you need to say a number more than 10, you'd have to describe it. 17, for example, you'd have to say 10 plus 5 plus 2, making it 17. That's Kumi, Zisanu, Ziwili. Once the capital was changed to Lilongwe, a lot of government offices and companies also moved. And now Zomba doesn't have a lot of economic activities. These big star umbrellas usually have people working as mobile phone network agents or money transfer agents. This is the same case for the booths. They are everywhere in Zomba and all of Malawi. Here, they're even right in front of the local government's office. There are so many money transfer and mobile phone network agents because Malawi is still a cash-based country. Bank transfers are still not that popular and most people buy phone credit on pay-as-you-go. Zomba also has some modern-looking buildings, especially for the supermarkets and local businesses. The motorbikes here are used as taxis. They're much easier to find and much cheaper than a car taxi. With local car taxis, normally you would have to share with other strangers and they won't start the journey until the car is at capacity. If you don't want to share, you'd have to pay for the other seats too. Even though Zomba has a lot of shops, some locals still travel to the neighboring city, Blantyre, to do some shopping for clothes, for example, because Blantyre has a lot more shops. By population, Zomba is the fourth biggest city in Malawi. First is Lilongwe, second is Blantyre, Zuzu's third, and Zomba is the fourth. Zomba is more of an administrative center rather than a commercial center. Its economy depends on the informal sector and small businesses rather than the formal sector. This means a lot of people work without formal contracts, and usually for small businesses, some of these businesses are not licensed, which makes it difficult to know the exact unemployment rates. Malawi in general doesn't have a lot of big retail chains, so most craftsmen would display their work outside their workshops to attract customers. It's really easy to get a lot of things custom made here. Zomba's mineral deposits are not extensive enough for commercial exploitation, so it's hard to attract investors. Most of the investments in Malawi goes to the capital Lilongwe or Blantyre. It also doesn't help that most people, when they graduate from universities, they end up moving to the capital or Blantyre for more opportunities. So most of the academic talent doesn't always stay in Zomba. Arable land is considered the best natural resource in Malawi, but it's strained by both the country's high population density and its agriculture-based economy. When it comes to the shops, most people would build a small shop outside their home, especially if they are near a main road. This way, they don't have to go back and forth to the city center. Or some places which Malawians would call trading centers, so this here would be called a trading center. There are also speed limits to drive around the trading centers because usually there's a lot of people around, so you'd have to drive slower than other areas. If you can't read English, it's easy to figure out what each shop offers, but the employees may not always be fluent. It's also normal to have the big strong bars on the shop windows to prevent burglars. This is the same case for homes. Almost every house would have this. Buying things straight from the craftsman without middlemen is not always cheap. Most of the raw materials are imported and the items are handmade, so sometimes it's cheaper to order from abroad. Also, prices can change quickly because of hyperinflation. For example, a table can have a price tag of 20,000 kwacha, and if you go the next day to make a purchase, the price can increase to 25,000 kwacha. With the rise of globalization, the local businesses have had to compete with cheaper imports, which makes it difficult for them to expand as well. Zomba is very green and has a lot of wildlife. I didn't manage to capture any, but as you drive around the city, you will encounter a lot of monkeys and baboons. Zomba is mainly known for its mountains, rivers, and landscape in general. In colonial times, it was known to have the best views in the British Empire. It used to have a lot more trees, but a lot have been cut down as well. As someone who loves nature and was born here, it's hard to imagine what Zomba would look like without trees. But they are being cut down every single day. I'm not exactly sure on what the Malawi government or locals are doing about this, but if you know, please let me know in the comments. From what I see, it's mainly charity organizations who are trying to replant a lot of the trees. Also, the locals are the ones exploiting the resources, not big companies. If you're wondering why locals will be the ones causing deforestation, it's because of poverty and low electricity supplies. This leads to a lot of people needing charcoal and firewood for cooking. Another thing is that people don't try to replace the trees they cut down. When it comes to how some of the locals feel about deforestation, they don't think there's anything wrong with it. This is due to lack of education on the subject. It's also important to note that with a growing population, a lot of forests have been cleared for agriculture. This will affect a lot of the endemic species like the monkeys and the baboons. Deforestation is not just a Zomba problem in Malawi, it's a nationwide problem. It's understandable that a lot of people are just trying to feed their families, but responsibility must also be taken for reforestation. Between 1972 and 1990, Malawi lost over 40% of its forests. As of 2023, forests cover just 33% of Malawi. But this percentage will drop in the coming years if reforestation is not prioritized. This area is actually the top of the famous Zomba Plateau. At this point, we were going to Mulunguzi Dam. There are a lot of street vendors selling wild fruits. This was a good opportunity because I got to try some fruits I never had before. I think these are called mirabelles, but I'm not too sure. Let me know in the comments if you know what they're called. They are so delicious. This is right at the entrance of Mulunguzi Dam. I actually saw quite a few houses around here, but they could be offices too. So you will get to meet quite a few people on your way. In my opinion, this is one of the best views in Zomba. I have to say, my camera doesn't do it justice because it's a lot more beautiful than this. Not only is the lake beautiful, but it's also very useful because it provides drinking water to all of Zomba and the neighboring villages. Some locals also use the lake for irrigation. The dam protects this forest next to it, as it prevents flooding. The construction of Mulunguzi Dam started in June 1997 and was completed in August 2001. This was at a cost of $28 million. Overall, this is a really great place if you love hiking and animals. There are a lot of unique butterflies and birds. Since I was in a hurry, I didn't get to fully capture the beauty of Zomba. But if you're ever going to visit, give yourself some time because the views are truly amazing. There are also a lot of amazing places I didn't get to explore. For example, the waterfalls that Zomba has, and also other unique wildlife that it has as well. You get to see so many vendors selling fruits on the streets of Zomba. Here, this man was selling some berries. He had some raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries. There isn't a lot of fast food shops around, so this is the fastest food you can get, I guess, but it's a win because I love blackberries. It's also important to make note that Zomba City Council passed a law that aims to penalize people who buy merchandise from illegal vendors. This may not be so obvious for tourists, and I really didn't see any warnings, but you could get randomly fined if you buy from unlicensed vendors. This law was passed because apparently the council loses a lot of revenue from illegal vending, because instead of being in a designated market and paying market fees, some people decide to sell in the streets without any licenses. But at the same time, some of these vendors don't make a lot of profit to be paying market fees, or they don't have any money at all to pay for any fees. Also, when you are further away from the trading centers, the police doesn't really enforce this. One of these designated markets is in the town center. Farmers from surrounding villages would come to sell their products as well as imported second-hand clothes. You can also buy fresh fish and dried fish from Lake Malawi. If you're wondering if Zomba is safe to visit, well, Malawi is generally considered a safe place to visit for tourists. It doesn't get a lot of tourists compared to the neighboring countries, so most people are generally happy to see foreigners. To get an idea on how people are like towards foreigners, you can check out my video on Malawian culture. I will leave the link in the description. But just like any place in the world, you would need to be aware of the cultural differences with wherever you come from and respect the city, of course. When it comes to infrastructure, the roads, for example, on Malawian standards, the roads in Zomba are quite good and there wasn't a lot of traffic. It was easy to get around it compared to a lot of Malawian cities. In other districts in Malawi, you need a 4x4 car to get around because the roads are bad. But in Zomba, any car would do. Lastly, here's one of the views of the beautiful Zomba Plateau. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please comment down below and tell me what you think about Zomba. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.